Hello, welcome to my talk on improving application availability and operational performance with an exciting new service, Amazon DevOps Guru. My name is Jacob Sullivan, and I am a senior product manager on the new service, Amazon DevOps Guru. So today, I'm going to talk through some of the current challenges that we hear about operating in the cloud, as well as benefits of using Amazon DevOps Guru, before getting into a few details about how the system itself actually works, including a demo to walk you through a specific example. We'll wrap up by talking about what kind of use cases are supported by the service, as well as how easy it is to get started. I get a chance to talk with customers every day. And what we've learned is that maintaining application availability, that is operating the collection of resources and software that you use for revenue generating applications or business critical workloads, maintaining the availability of those applications can be very challenging. And regardless of the size of the company or the market in which you operate, we're all under constant pressure to operate and innovate faster and to do so at a lower cost. And what we hear is that organizations are trying to put together different practices, whether they're DevOps practices or SRE or site reliability engineering practices, to manage these systems, to solve these problems, and to automate operational tasks. And we're all trying to simply improve the speed and quality of how we build, test, and deliver applications. And so we've developed a new service to help with this, regardless of how your company is organized or what approaches you've taken to solving these problems. Some of the best practices that we've implemented are universally helpful. And as we all know, that pace of change is accelerating, and business markets around us are always changing. Now, AWS lets you quickly spin up resources as you need them. You can deploy hundreds or thousands of servers in minutes. That means that you can constantly work on improving and developing new applications and do this innovation and experimentation even faster and more quickly. And these capabilities are incredibly powerful, but maintaining the availability of these applications in this highly flexible and constantly changing set of systems can be challenging even for the best trained, most fully staffed teams. And some of the key challenges that we see in operating in the cloud are common across markets, across companies, across types of software that they're hosting on AWS. First and foremost, what we hear from operators is there's just an overwhelming amount of data, be it metrics, alarms, logs, and the need to calibrate alarms and notifications so that I catch changes or our application availability issues is a real stressor. I'm probably setting very broad-based alarms because I'm more worried about missing a notification than I am about receiving too many, which can lead to alarm fatigue or the need to constantly be tweaking or calibrating the alarms that I have set. And when issues do occur, trying to manually correlate all of this information while we're receiving tickets from customers or while we're receiving calls from our manager to try and improve this application availability, aggregating and collecting that data from all of these different places and manually going through our mechanisms can also be very overwhelming. And at the end of the day, the fourth issue that we see is that this pace of innovation means that we're continuously updating all of our applications. We're continuously changing the systems that we're using. So that means that we need to be continuously updating the metrics, alarms, and dashboards that we're using. We need to be revising this operational posture. And this can be quite overwhelming and tedious to do on a manual basis over and over. So how are operators approaching this now? So let's imagine for a second that I'm a manager of a DevOps or SRE team, and I'm standing up a new application or a new microservice. I'm going to rely very heavily on my previous experience and understanding of what types of operational problems might occur for the type of application or service that I'm building for production. And I'm also going to need to know quite a bit about my AWS resources and that my application will be hosted on, and how those resources behave and what kind of scenarios that they can get into. So from that, I'm going to begin at the top here. I'm going to create static dashboards. These are going to contain the metrics that are key performance indicators that tell me whether or not my application is still operating as I intend it to. By definition, these are going to be static dashboards with the same metrics that I'm used to looking at every day. And they'll likely be broad-based key performance indicators because, again, I'm trying to find a range of what's going on. And I'm going to need to manually instrument the metrics that I'm using to collect data, be it CPU utilization or error rates from these resources or application, as well as tweaking and calibrating the alarms. And I'm going to do this over and over. In the best case scenario, I have a playbook that my team's going to start with that gives me some understanding of the operations readiness reviews that I need to do to check my work. I'm going to have to triage alarms with a range of sensitivity. So what this means is that I've probably set relatively broad alarms because, again, I'm afraid of missing things. So that means the first thought that comes into my mind every time I get an alarm, is this really an alarm? Do I really need to look at this? Or is this just noise that's in my system? These types of issues plague operators, especially when they're being paged in the middle of the night for what could be a revenue loss or business critical issue. Once I've set all of these up and I've done this process and I've begun operating, if I have time, I'm going to go back and I'm going to try and update my playbook. I'm going to need to work with my team to continually learn about all the new resources that are coming out, the potential changes in behavior. As our development process continues to innovate and push the boundaries, that means I'm likely encountering situations in production that I don't have the explicit experience of having gone through before. So I'm going to need to continue to understand the current state of the art, the capabilities that are ongoing out there across all of my operational posture. Many of today's tools and processes are insufficient for these challenges, and existing automated systems that are designed to help can they themselves be incredibly difficult to instrument, configure, and maintain. So what is our solution? DevOps Guru is a fully managed machine learning-based service based on years of Amazon.com and AWS data that's trying to make it easier for developers and operators to improve application availability. It will collect and analyze data such as metrics, logs, events, and traces to identify behaviors that deviate from normal operating patterns. It will then collect this information together and present it to you in a single alert, correlating additional information from CloudTrail management logs and other sources to help you understand on the fly what's occurring in your application. When we were first building the DevOps Guru service, we really wanted to prioritize easy to set up and easy to use. So there's no expectation that you understand machine learning, that you're in there calibrating the different detectors that are running on these metrics. There's almost no configuration required. And I'll talk more about this as we get to the demo section. But we really wanted to make things easy to use. The system will auto-detect operational issues. So that means on your behalf, it's continually analyzing all of the different data that's available to it, going through and spotting anomalies and collecting that together. So the auto detection is a key value of the DevOps Guru service. The entire service is designed around quick resolution, whether it's helping with the alarm fatigue or gathering information together for you or providing recommendations for quicker resolution. Everything is designed about reducing the mean time to recovery to help you better understand what's going on and to move your processes along as quickly as possible. The system will reduce noise in a couple of different ways. First, when an issue occurs, instead of receiving 10 or 15 different alarms about the same issue, DevOps Guru will collect those together and provide a single DevOps Guru insight, which contains all of the anomalies that are currently ongoing. The second way that it'll help reduce noise is that it's calibrating itself to the historical data that's in your account. So instead of you needing to go in and manually adjust thresholds on your alarms as your business changes or as you deploy new innovations in your application, the machine learning itself will parameterize. It's not training on your data, but it is adjusting to the historical information that it has. So seeing things like seasonality or gradual changes in your application's behavior that are not anomalous or indicating a problem has occurred, the machine learning will adjust so that it's reducing the number of alerts that it sends you and maintaining a high positive rate. And finally, the system will automatically scale. So after you've turned DevOps Guru on to an account, as an example, if you add or remove entire applications or update existing applications, there's no need to go back in and change any of the configuration. The system will automatically scale and contract as you're making these changes. So here we have a quote from HCL where they're talking explicitly about how Amazon DevOps Guru has saved hours and hours as they're trying to identify and quickly resolve issues that occur. And they really appreciate how much it's able to reduce the mean time to recovery. Here I'm going to walk you through an overview of how the Amazon DevOps Guru service works. When you first come and find us in the AWS console, you can select coverage. What we want you to do is identify the applications or workloads that are critical enough for us to watch on your behalf. You can do this by selecting AWS CloudFormation stacks. CloudFormation are the infrastructure as code supported by the CloudFormation team, the AWS CloudFormation team. And essentially what this is it's a pointer to that collection of resources that you've grouped together for the purpose of an application. If you're not using CloudFormation at this time, you can select an entire AWS account. So if you've adopted multi-account principles and each account is in itself an application boundary, then the service will view it in that way. If you're operating multiple applications in an account, we would call that a multi-tenant account. The service will still be quite effective in identifying anomalies, but it will be less effective in grouping those together. So as an example, if two issues occurred at the same time in two separate applications and they're unrelated to each other, the service may not know that without additional information such as CloudFormation or AWS X-Ray. So it'll group those into a single alert. So you won't get a lot of noise in the system, but we will sometimes group things together that don't necessarily fit. Once you've identified the coverage, that's pretty much the only configuration that you need. From there, we'll begin automatically ingesting data from Amazon CloudWatch, AWS Config, AWS CloudTrail, and AWS X-Ray. The CloudWatch, Config, and CloudTrail data is there whether or not you're using it or not. It comes standard with all AWS resources. Resources such as EC2, API Gateway, Lambda, DynamoDB, etc. And DevOps Guru will begin evaluating those metrics as soon as you turn on the service. So within a couple of days, it will have settled out and will begin producing DevOps Guru insights. And that's what you see here in the orange box. An insight has three main parts. First, the metrics that we're analyzing on your behalf. So across the hundreds or thousands of available metrics, it will be using a collection of machine learning detectors to identify or spot anomalies that occur. So you're not limited just to the 20 or 30 metrics that you used as key performance indicators on our dashboard example a little bit earlier. We're able to watch a wide array of information, much more than a collection of human operators would ever want to do. From that, when we do spot anomalies, we group them together and begin creating what you can kind of think of as a dynamic dashboard or a dashboard on the fly, specific to the incident that we're viewing. And I'll show you an example in just a second. We will collect all the anomalous metrics together for you and present them in one place. We will then go and pull related events, or what we call enrichment data. And today what that means is that we're going through the CloudTrail management log. looking for things like IAM role policy changes, configuration bit changes on your resources, the deployment of new resources. And we're pulling things that may be relevant to the collection of anomalies that we've already put together. And from these two pieces of information, the anomalous metrics and the related events, we'll do some pattern matching to try and present a collection of recommendations for mitigation or remediation. Now, in some cases, these recommendations will be quite precise and specific and very helpful. And in other cases, because the anomaly detection works so well in such a broad set of use cases, the recommendations may be more informational in nature, pointing you to documentation to better understand the types of anomalies and events that we're seeing in this specific incident. So those three pieces together make up the DevOps Guru Insight. You can view them from our console. You can also view them through our integrations with Systems Manager Ops Center and Simple Notification Service, or SNS, where these are broadcast out to be picked up either by yourself, integrated into existing tools that you're using, or third-party providers, which I'll talk about more in a second. But with that, why don't we jump over and do a demo to give you a real feel for how the system works. When you first come into the DevOps Guru system, the first view you'll be presented with is called the dashboard. And here it's trying to give you an overview of the system health. It'll tell you the total number of resources analyzed in the last hour, impacted stacks. So again, this is a reference to CloudFormation stacks. This is our proxy for applications. And ongoing reactive insights, which we'll take a look at what that means in a second. We have another class of insights called proactive, which I'll talk a little bit about towards the end. But here on my system health overview, I can take a look at all of my CloudFormation stacks. Right now, it's showing that the majority of these are green, meaning they have no ongoing reactive insight. And they're trying to show me things like the stack lifetime, mean time to resolution. And as you can see, this will vary from stack to stack. So the types of incidents that do occur take longer to resolve. Now, one important thing is that insights are system objects, meaning we will resolve the insight, or the system will resolve the insight when the anomalies have dissipated. So it's not always because of an action that an operator has taken, and I'll talk about why that's important in just a second. If I want to, I can also view just my unhealthy stacks, which is showing me that one of my stacks does have an ongoing reactive insight. And as of our recent release, if I want to see it by resource type, I can also see by resource type how many reactive insights I have ongoing. If I want to click to the control bar, I can see a list of insights with some information in the title about what types of anomalies it's been seeing, as well as status, severity, and number of resources impacted. But let's jump into an example so that I can give you a better feel for how the system will generate specific insights. So the first thing you'll notice is that here in the title, it's trying to give you a description of what's going on. There's something with the Lambda duration that's anomalous, and it's referencing a specific stack as well as high severity. And it's giving me a plain text description of some of the things that it's detected, as well as a link out to System Manager Ops Center and basic information like start and end time. But the really cool view starts here, where I'm looking at a timeline view of the aggregate metrics. It's showing me a list of all of the metrics that have found anomalous. Now, you may have familiarity with these because things like the 5XR average might be on your dashboard, but there may be metrics that you're not necessarily used to looking for that will be represented here in a timeline view. What we're trying to do is give you a snapshot of what occurred in what resources. So the API gateway and Lambda resources both had anomalies that occurred very quickly next to each other before a cascading effect across those resources. So here's the collection of anomalies. If I want to look at those same anomalies, but I want to see the graph view, I can click over and it's showing me the waveform, as well as a highlight of where it was anomalous. And if I need to, I can click further in and even go all the way out to CloudWatch if I want to play more with the view of the metrics to better understand what's going on. Ideally, from the aggregate metric view, you'll be able to get a snapshot or a relatively quick picture of what resources and types of errors we're seeing across that application. If I scroll a little further down, what you'll see is the relevant event section. Now, what's important here is that this timeline is different than the timeline above. This dotted line right here shows the start and end time of the anomalies above, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to pick out events that may be related or even causal for the types of anomalies that we're seeing. So here I have an infrastructure event. So there was an API gateway resource deployment. So basically I updated this stack. If I want to, I can jump out to the ops event in CloudTrail and see some more information. And this occurred relatively soon before my insight began. Farther back here, a couple of days before, there was an IAM policy change, which could be impacting how this collection of resources is operating, but it's a couple of days back. So under normal operations, that may or may not be causal in this case. If I scroll a little further down, what I see is that there are 5 recommendations. The first being the rollback of the IAM policy change. Why? Well, because it's seeing these 2 related metrics, or this 5x error related metric and this related event, which are often linked together. In this case, it's been a little bit of time, so I'd need to go investigate and see whether or not that IAM policy change is actually blocking my stack. And then it provides some information on troubleshooting errors in API gateway and configuring provision concurrency settings in Lambda. And again, it tells me why it's showing me these. Now, after a little investigation, what I'll find quickly is that it's not the IAM policy change. Everything was okay there, but it is related to this provision concurrency setting in Lambda. And so just briefly, provision concurrency is how many simultaneous calls to the Lambda will I accept before I spin up some additional Lambda resources, which will introduce a delay. And if that Lambda resource provision concurrency setting is too low compared to my concurrency timeout setting in my API gateway resource, meaning if those 2 configurations aren't matched up, then I'll get this type of cascading failure whenever I get a burst of traffic. Not more traffic than I normally get in a week or even an hour, but a burst within a few seconds that causes my Lambda to spin up in that way. Now, as you can see, this issue resolved itself quite quickly, so the anomalies went away. But this is the type of intermittent issue that can be difficult to spot from the top-level dashboards because it does come in and out so quickly. So we really think that there's a lot of benefit of being able to spot these types of issues. Now, this is an example of a reactive insight. Even though its intermittent nature can help improve your overall application stability, it's still considered reactive. There are other examples of proactive insights, such as our brick wall avoider, which is looking for resource exhaustion scenarios, such as running out of memory, where we're going to warn you in advance, be it hours or a day, that we think you're about to run out of memory. We're really excited about proactive use cases such as the brick wall avoider, and it's something that we're going to continue to work on. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, DevOps Guru is integrated with both AWS System Manager Ops Center and with Simple Notification Service. And through the Simple Notification Service, it can be picked up by third parties such as Atlassian OpsGenie and PagerDuty that have existing integrations. And this allows our insight to be published into those workflow systems to help the developers and operators manage their incident response. And here we have a quote from Thomson Reuters talking specifically about the integration that they've done with PagerDuty and how they think it's both quick and efficient to help get recommendations to the right people at the right time. And they're excited about how they expect this to reduce operational downtime as a result of both this integration and the ability to leverage Amazon DevOps Guru in their actions to improve application availability at Thomson Reuters. So what types of use cases do we see Amazon DevOps Guru taking a good strong hold on? First, improving operational performance and availability. So as I was mentioning before, there's a lot of noise in the system, and it's hard to separate what's critical and what's not critical. And the example that I just walked you through in the demo is the type of intermittent issue that could be impairing your application availability, but can be very difficult to spot. So by watching across so many different metrics on your behalf, we're able to identify issues and collect data together that may not surface on a regular basis. So we're trying to improve application availability by identifying these types of low severity but highly degrading to application availability issues. Secondly, the ability for us to auto-instrument and adjust to your system as you're continuously improving and continuously deploying applications is a significant benefit to developers and operators. That dynamic automated function of both scaling as well as adjusting allows you to focus on responding to real operational events and knowing that there's reduced noise and higher precision to the information that's being delivered by DevOps Guru. And as we've talked about, it's really about reducing this mean time to recovery, both improving the accuracy of the anomaly detection and then collecting this information together and providing recommendations, be them specific actions or speeding up your ability to learn about the types of errors that you're seeing. All of this is really designed to keep applications up longer and to reduce downtime when it does occur. And I mentioned the proactive use case, the brick wall avoider. As we get more and more into the proactive, this is just an opportunity to really shift your operators left, so to speak, and help them understand how to manage and maintain application availability before these issues even impair the system in production, before your customers or downstream users even become aware that there's an issue. And these are the types of uses that we think are highly targeted for Amazon DevOps Guru. And here you have a great quote from 605, just really highlighting the ease of use and how this automation at scale, especially as you're expanding, in this case, across dozens of AWS accounts and tens of thousands of resources to monitor. I can't even imagine how many metrics that means that and operational data that's available there that you have to stay on top of as you're trying to improve this application availability. So today, DevOps Guru supports about 30 of the most commonly used AWS services. And as you can see listed here, everything from S3 to DynamoDB to KMS and back around again. We have a full list of these resources on our pricing page where you can learn exactly what dimensions that we cover in these resources as well. And we're really excited to announce that Amazon DevOps Guru recently went general availability. We were able to roll out a few new enhancements. The resource view that I showed you as part of the demo is brand new, as well as our support for CloudWatch Agent Container Insights. So if you're using EKS, ECS, and EC2, and are also using the Container Insights, the CloudWatch Agent, we have even more improved detectors for those use cases. And to better understand the cost of using DevOps Guru, we've created a pretty advanced cost estimator where you can come to our console, you can point it towards the account or CloudFormation stack that you want us to analyze, and it'll dig in deep. And it takes a bit of time. It can take several hours for it to do the evaluation. So have a cup of coffee and come back. But it'll give you a pretty granular estimate and give you some dials to be able to adjust the resource utilization. This is because we charge a fraction of a cent per hour, per resource hour, per resource. So if you're using an EC2 and it runs 2 hours a day, then we'll charge you for 2 hours a day. If it's running 24 hours a day for the entire month, you'll be charged a few dollars for that EC2 resource. But this cost estimator will help you understand how those costs will scale out. And we launched in 4 additional regions as part of our GA as well. So happy to support many different regions around the AWS world. So you can find us in the console by looking for DevOps Guru. We do offer a free trial. The first 7,200 resource hours per month are free for the first 3 months, as well as 10,000 API calls to DevOps Guru. We have a great workshop that you can find online that helps you understand the best way to set up and test the DevOps Guru service. It is a read-only service, so we do recommend that you consider turning it on in one of your production systems to compare it against your existing dashboards and alarms to get a real feel for how the service will work. Thank you so much for joining me today and learning more about Amazon DevOps Guru.